It's FYF Sports, man. It's Lamont when we back with another podcast video, man. I got some news and information for you guys. Just got to touch on it today, man. Been dealing with a lot of awkwardly debating 90s fans that can't make up their mind on if these 90s players were great, or if they just want to bash these 90s players and just diminish their own era. They say I'm critical of the 90s, but they sit here and criticize their own players of the 90s. I don't understand the logic. But we'll get into that later. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to the video already. If you haven't done so already, make sure you check out our live debates. The debates have been great. All right, we've been giving away prizes. We've been having debate champs. We had our first debate champ dethroned. Man, you guys just got to check out the lives for yourself, man. They've been exciting. They've been compelling. And then again, the best thing about our debates is no toxic behavior. It's no toxic behavior. You can come in with your own opinions, your own unique thought, regardless of what it is, and we're not going to criticize you. Ain't no personal attacks. You know, we don't get into our emotions over there. We stick to the slogan of the show, FYFs. Forget your feelings. No feelings involved. And because of that, things stay clean over there. But make sure you guys hit the notification bell. When we go live, you're going to want to know. You can jump in those live debates. We don't just debate. You have an opportunity to win cash prizes if you bring the best arguments. But with that being said, man, there's been a subject that's been coming up for whatever reason. And I honestly don't know why this subject is coming up. The subject's been on Scotty Pippen. Now, I was on Ticket TV earlier today, and I think they were talking about 90s players, how they get on 90s players. I think there's this new argument for Jordan. People want to diminish Scottie Pippen. They want to say he wasn't a top 10 or a top 5 player in the NBA, when it's clear that not only a lot of NBA players thought that, but a lot of 90s players thought that. Every ranking list of the 90s considers Scottie Pippen in high regard. But to elevate Jordan's status, what you have a lot of 90s players doing, or 90s fans, what 90s fans will do is they will diminish Scottie Pippen's actual value to that team and to those championships won. So when I try to give Scottie Pippen his due respect, when I give my list of the top players of the 90s, I have Scottie Pippen as my top 5, as my 5th best player of the 90s. Not my first, not my second, not my third, not my 4th. I have him as my 5th best player. And for whatever reason, that seems to get under people's skin. My list seems to get under people's skin. Putting Scottie Pippen at 5 gets under people's skin. And it doesn't get under people's skin because they don't like Michael Jordan. It gets under people's skin because then you would have to admit that Jordan played with another top 5 player. And when you admit that Jordan played with another top 5 player, then what they have to do then is they have to relinquish the argument when they start ranting and raving about LeBron James having another top 5 player on his team. Because those two are comparable. Because, again, there's this new narrative going around that LeBron James is the only player ever to play with another top 5 player on his team. So by me elevating Scottie Pippen to top 5, it makes those two situations similar. And because there's so much hate and vitriol for LeBron James for whatever reason, they don't like that correlation between those two. So this is when you see, and again, I have it pulled up right here. I'll pull up some of the conversation here again, but we're going to get to the facts because a lot of this conversation was purely based off emotion, and it was also purely based off of angst and hate for the FYF Sports channel. That's all it is. But yeah, we're just going to get to this, man. We're going to chime in on what these people have to say about Scottie Pippen. Some of the things the reasons that they use to elevate other players over Scottie Pippen. Some of these things are nonsensical. Some of these arguments are extremely flawed. So again, be prepared to have your IQ lowered listening to this conversation. But don't worry, when I bring the facts and the information later on, I'm going to boost you guys back up. So don't worry. Don't worry about your IQ getting diminished listening to this nonsensical conversation because it's full of a lot of idiots who are Jordan fans. These aren't 90s fans. These are not fans of 90s basketball. What they are is they're Jordan fans, because the only goal of Jordan fans is to do everything possible to elevate Michael Jordan. They don't care about the game of basketball. They don't care about what players actually did or didn't do on the court. It's solely about elevating Michael Jordan. And if there are any players that could be considered good that he played with, they try to diminish him. And that's just facts. But again, don't take my word for it. We're going to chime in on the video. I want you to just drop in the comments. Again, you see the live chat. Hit us up in the live chat. Let us know what you think about this particular conversation. Some of you guys were there. All right. But again, this is something we can also talk about on our live show, because, in our debates, we can keep it civil. We can allow you a chance and opportunity to voice your opinion without getting completely bashed by everybody around. And it's not a toxic atmosphere. But you know what? We just going to get to this video and we just going to hear what they have to say about Scottie Pippen.
Just go to why those other guys wasn't winning chips. Those other guys wasn't winning chips because they wasn't playing with Jordan, nigga.
Take it. Was Scottie Pippen top 10 in the 90s?
Top 10? I give you that.
Okay. Well, then we don't really have an argument then. Okay.
Yes, we do have an argument. We do have an argument. What are you talking about, Lamont?
Anything after Jordan
we do have an argument, Lamont.
So I don't really want to.
It is an argument, Lamont.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Okay, let me ask you this question, Lamont.
Lamont, perfect list.
In the 90s, Lamont.
Okay, what's the perfect list? What's your top 10 players in the 90s?
Hold on, Lamont.
What is your top 10 players?
See, and again, we'll pause it right there. We'll pause it right there, and we'll say this. There is no perfect list, you guys. There's no perfect list. I mean, really, your number one and your number two in the 90s, it has to be Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon. Jordan with 6 MVPs, Hakeem with 1 with 2 championships, Jordan with 6 championships. That probably has to be your 1 and 2 when you're looking at the top of the 90s. Anything after that is going to be subjective. And the primary reason is going to be subjective because none of the other guys that you can list, none of these other guys that you can list won championships in the 90s other than Scottie Pippen and David Robinson. Right? So if we're going off championships, we have to elevate Scottie Pippen. We have to elevate David Robinson. That's on top of the fact that David Robinson was just one of the greatest defenders and scorers of the 90s. So I don't know what criteria these guys are using. Because again, when we're talking the LeBron debate, for whatever reason, it's all about championships. Now we're talking about 90s players. It's no longer about championships. It's just about who the best player is. But I guess that's really all you can talk about when you know you're dealing with multiple players who were dominated by Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen of the Chicago Bulls. All right. But Jordan fans will want you to believe that Scottie Pippen had nothing to do with that. Scottie Pippen had a minimal impact on that. It was all Michael Jordan. None of these guys won championships because of Michael Jordan. It had nothing to do with Scottie Pippen's defense on Magic Johnson or guys like Charles Barkley or guys like Mark Jackson in the playoffs. It had nothing to do with that. It had nothing to do with some of the Phil Jackson schematic changes. It was all Michael Jordan. It was Michael Jordan who stopped Barkley, Sean Kemp, and all of these other guys, Clyde Drexler, from getting championships in the 90s. If you listen to these guys. See, I like we do here, we give credit where credit is due. And we have to give everybody on that Bulls team who played a major role their credit alongside Michael Jordan. But again, we just wanted to get that point out. I love it when I have control of the mute button because again, we can mute these guys, we can get the real point across, the facts, and then we can get back to the nonsense. But let's go ahead and hear it out.
What other team, Lamont, in the 90s, what other team had 2 top 10 players? I'm asking you, hold on. What other team had 2 top 10 players on their squad in the 90s?
Stockton Malone.
Stockton was not a top 10 player.
Yes, he was.
You're a lying-ass cocksucker, man.
Another nonsensical point by Ticket TV. He says John Stockton was not a top 10 player of the 90s. Now, what we're going to be doing later in this video, again, I have my list. In my list, I have Stockton and Malone both in the top 10 in the 90s. All right. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through as many lists that I can find as many compiled lists of the best players of the 90s that I can find just to compare my list to. I want to see how my list matches up to other people, because according to these guys, me putting John Stockton and Scottie Pippen in the top 10 is just completely absurd. It's just completely absurd. I've already, as you guys just heard, I've already asked Ticket what his top 10 list for the 90s actually is. And you see that as of right now, he's filibustering, probably because he doesn't have a list. Maybe he's juggling names. Maybe this is something that he's not really critically thought about. It could be all of the above, a little combination of each. Either way, he's not prepared to really speak on this topic because he himself does not have a top 10 list. All right, but we're going to let the video play some more. We're going to fact check some of these things. He says that John Stockton wasn't a top 10 player in the 90s. He says Scottie Pippen. He started the video off by saying Scottie Pippen was top 10. So if he actually does give a list of top 10 players in the 90s, I want to see if he puts Scottie Pippen in his top 10 as he confirmed earlier. And again, we're going to really fact check a lot of these things, because these guys will very quickly say that I'm a liar. So again, all I do in these videos is I fact check people. I've yet to see anybody make an attempt to fact check me without having a group of people with no basketball knowledge just to gang up and yell out stuff. Again, when you lose debates against me, the only thing you can do is get toxic, which you'll see these guys, they'll get toxic because again, it's FYF debates for a reason. Like I said, you cannot ether us. All right, you can't ether none of our subscribers. This was a conversation that we can send CJ or one of our youngins over to handle this. This is light work talking about the 90s. We know the 90s was great. We know what players were great in the 90s. We don't need you guys to tell us what order they need to be placed in, because obviously you guys don't know. But we're gonna hear Ticket TV's list on who were the greatest players of the 90s, if he can dare to say so. And we want to really test his knowledge on the 90s.
Man, this nigga mic ain't working. Something wrong with his fucking brain. Now, back to this nigga Lamont. John Stockton was not a top 10 player in the 90s. Cut the shit out, nigga.
Show me one list that don't got him top 10.
Nigga, I can show you 10 lists. Bro, I can show you 10 lists.
Top 10? No, show
in
me.
the 90s?
Please show me. Yeah,
Michael Jordan. Hold on, let me finish.
Boy,
Mike,
your list
you asked me
to be trash.
Lamont, you asked me for the list. You want me to give it to you or not? Hey, I'm gonna send you a link again so you can come back in, Blueface, baby. Lamont, you asked me for a list. Do you want it or not, nigga?
Let's hear this goofy.
Okay, boom. Michael Jordan. One, and this ain't in no order, but Michael Jordan's number one.
I need an order. I need an order because I got Pippen at 5.
I give you order, no problem. I give you order. Michael Jordan. Yeah. Hakeem Olajuwon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Karl Malone.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Barkley. Okay. What, nigga? Those guys I just named you at MVP awards. Fuck is you laughing?
Charles Barkley's not better than David Robinson.
Bro, I did not. What are you talking about, bro?
You got Barkley.
Charles Barkley career numbers is better than David Robinson.
I would put Barkley over Robinson.
Charles Barkley's career numbers are better than David Robinson's. You cool ass nigga. Shut your bitch ass up.
In a game.
Top of the key,
his numbers are better on points and rebounds, cocksucker. Shut the fuck up.
Again, these are people. We're dealing with people that say I don't know anything about the 90s. Ticket TV just said Charles Barkley's numbers in the 90s were better than David Robinson's numbers in the 90s. That's something else we got to fact check. So we got to fact check John Stockton being on anybody's top 10 list. We got to fact check Scottie Pippen being on anybody's top 10 list. We got a lot of stuff to fact check. We got to fact check David Robinson's stats against Charles Barkley's stats. We can fact check that. All right. We got a lot of stuff. Now, again, these are things that they said. Now, we also have to fact check this. Ticket TV, at the beginning of this conversation, we heard him say, I said, is Scottie Pippen top 10 in the 90s? He said yes. So we also need to make sure that he's not biased and he's putting Scotty Pippen in his top 10. So we need to make sure we got to hold him accountable for all of these things. And again, what we're going to do, we're just listening to this right here just to set the ground rules for how we do our research. Because what you know is, you know what's coming next. Y'all know that we're going to be going to the drawing board. We're going to pull up the facts. All right. We're going to pull up all the facts about it. FYF Fred back here, he got off probation from that last stunt he pulled on Anna, calling her the Black Lord Ingram. He made the diss track to Ticket TV, and he exposed the Myron Goldberger video. He's off probation because he pulled up all the research for me. He pulled up all the research. So when we go to the drawing board, Fred is going to be back. He's going to help me present all of this information. But we're going to hear him out a little bit more because I want to hear his whole list. And I hope that his list is not as comical as I think it's going to be. But you know what? I'm going to give him a chance. Because again, he's an avid 90s fan. He should know his 90s. He should know it. I shouldn't have to know this. I shouldn't be here teaching people the game of basketball. I shouldn't be here giving people lessons on what players were great and not great in the 90s. I shouldn't have to give lessons on what Charles Barkley could do or couldn't do. It's sad that I got to teach these guys this, and these are older people. All these people, they saw the 90s. They saw it, and this is sad. But you know what? Let's go ahead and finish it. We're going to continue on. Again, I don't want to continue to lower you guys' IQ. I'm only going to allow you to tolerate hearing this for a little bit longer, and then we're going to get to the drawing board to debunk everything that they've said.
No, it's not. Barkley only averaged 22 points a game.
Bro,
David Robinson averaged
how many points David Robinson averaged for his career?
24.
How many points did David Robinson average for his career?
No, we're talking about in the 90s.
That nigga's a crack.
In the 90s.
That nigga a crack. Man, Lamont, you're a cool ass nigga, man.
Hold on.
You're
In the 90s.
You're cool, man. You're cool,
David
man.
Robinson
You're
averaged
cool, man.
24 points a game in the 90s.
Lamont, you're a cool. You're
Okay,
a
let's hear your
cool.
list. Let's hear your list.
Cool ass nigga.
Finish your list.
Period.
Let's see if you know 10 players in the 90s.
I just told. What do you mean if I know 10 players? Lamont, do you know who the fuck you talking to, nigga?
Finish
Fuck
the
wrong
list.
with you, nigga?
Finish your
I just
list.
figured. I was just telling you till you cut me off, you cocksucker.
All right, my bad. Finish.
Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, dumbass nigga. Karl Malone, 3. Charles Barkley, 4.
Wow.
Dick suck. Isaiah Thomas, 5.
In the 90s?
In the 90s?
Bro, Isaiah Thomas was in the Eastern Conference Finals in the 90s. What the fuck are you talking about?
He played 2 years.
Was Isaiah Thomas in the Eastern Conference Finals in the 90s?
Come on, now. He played
Hold
2
on,
years
I'm asking y'all a question.
That's bull.
Oh, man. All right. This man, we're going to start with the fact that Isaiah Thomas was a great basketball player in the 80s. We'll start with that. In the 90s, not so great. The Pistons weren't even really great going into the 90s. And again, when we talk about the 90s, y'all, when I say were you the best of the 90s, this is not about identifying one individual year in the 90s where you may have been great. I need longevity. Across the duration of the 90s, were you great? Unfortunately for Isaiah Thomas, he retired in 1993-94 season. And in those seasons into the 90s, he wasn't as great. Nor were the Detroit Pistons. So to say that Isaiah Thomas was a top 10 player in the 90s makes no sense. He didn't even play half of the 90s. He only played a few years into the 90s. If it's about one single season, then we would have to put Magic Johnson in our top 5 because he was an MVP in the 90s and he took his team to the NBA Finals. If that's the case, if we're using single seasons, unfortunately that's not the case. That's not the argument here. We're talking about the entirety of the 90s. So when we talk about the entirety of the 90s, let's use the whole 90s. And again, this is why we broke out into laughter when he said Isaiah Thomas. That's comical. Again, don't make your list comical. So when you start resorting to players like Isaiah Thomas, that tells me right there that your knowledge on the 90s is extremely limited. And your knowledge on the 90s is extremely limited because the only person that y'all care about is Michael Jordan. That's the Only way you say Isaiah Thomas. And again, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Hopefully the laughter subsides. Hopefully this laughter can subside because the Isaiah Thomas in your top 10 of the 90s is extremely comical. That's comedy. And again, we're going to give him a chance to rectify it. Hopefully he can. But I don't know. But I want to hear his full list before we go to the drawing board to debunk all of this nonsense.
Was Isaiah Thomas in the Eastern Conference Finals in the 90s?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, man.
I'm asking you a question.
Oh, man.
Was Isaiah Thomas in the Eastern Conference Finals in the 90s?
Yeah, he was. I said he was.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
You lose,
bro. Isaiah Thomas
went. This nigga played 2 years in the 90s.
Bro, Isaiah Thomas. Bro, listen.
He played.
Bro, the nigga was in the Eastern Conference Finals in the 90s. What are you talking about?
He played 2 years.
You act like the nigga got knocked out.
Man. He played.
Doesn't matter, bro. Magic Johnson was running up for MVP in the 90s. Bro, Magic Johnson was in the Magic Johnson was in time out. Magic Johnson was in the NBA Finals in the 90s. You cocksucker.
Top 10 90s player.
In the 90s, he didn't do shit.
Bro, so you mean to tell me that nigga who ain't do shit the whole 90s, but Magic Johnson was in the finals?
Y'all are tripping.
All right, so what's the stipulation for the list in the 90s? Did they got to play all 10 years?
They got to play at least 5 years. They got to play at least 5.
Look at Lamar trying to create the criteria. This nigga trying to create his own criteria.
You got to tell the criteria before you start making a list.
Hold on, no, my bad. Let's hear Ticket's list. He said
I'm just saying, I put Isaiah on there because Isaiah Thomas led his team. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals in the 90s. They had just won a championship the year before. What are you talking about?
Okay, that was 89-90, but okay.
I said they had just won a chip the year before, and the very next year they were back in the Eastern Conference Finals.
All right, let's hear your list. Let's finish.
Right? Is that right or wrong, Lamont?
I guess.
You got him over, man.
This is what Lamont want to do. He want to move the goalposts so that whenever you say something, no. See, it's got to be from this time.
You're the only goofy person to put Isaiah Thomas as one of the best
No, I'm not, bro.
Ticket, you put Isaiah Thomas over Shaquille O'Neal in the 90s. Shaquille O'Neal averaged in his second year 29 points a game in his third year, and had a stretch of dominance in the 90s that was like nothing we've ever seen. And you had the nerve to put Isaiah Thomas in your top 10 in the 90s, a man who was on his way out the door and aging. And you're really defending that. See, this is the stuff you have to deal with because, again, I put arguably one of the greatest players of the 90s at my 5 position, and I get viciously attacked by Jordan fans. He puts Isaiah Thomas in his top 10, a guy who did nothing in the 90s, nothing relevant, and nothing meaningful over the duration of the entire 90s. And look how quiet it gets. Nobody says anything. It's agreeable. You could put a very extremely controversial pick like Isaiah Thomas in your top 10, but you get no vitriol from the panel. This is a panel full of people who love Michael Jordan. Again, he could have put Vinny Del Negro in his list, and everybody would have been fine with it. Everybody would have been fine with it. That's how pathetic it was starting to get. But again, I want to give this man every opportunity to give me his whole list. Because again, we're going to be going to the drawing board to conduct a max ether on this entire list, completely debunking. And again, I'm waiting for somebody. I have yet to see somebody take my drawing board videos and debunk the facts that I put out. It has not happened. It's impossible to do. But again, we got a number of things to go on the drawing board at. We need to see if Isaiah Thomas is in any top 10 list out there. We're going to see if John Stockton is in any top 10 list out there, since that's so controversial. Since John Stockton wasn't a top 10 player of the 90s, we need to make sure that Ticket has Scotty Pippen in his top 10, because at the beginning of this video, he admitted that Scotty Pippen was a top 10 player in the 90s. We got a whole list of things. He says that Charles Barkley put up better numbers than David Robinson. We got to compare that to we got to compare those numbers. Again, that's not true. So we need to compare a lot of things, because again, these are These are supposed to be the gatekeepers for the 90s. These are the people that have all of the information for the 90s. I'm the one that's always wrong. I'm capping. And they allow somebody to put Isaiah Thomas as one of the top 10 players of the 90s. That's not capping. Again, you see where it's headed. And this is why I say you're going to lose a little bit of IQ. Like literally lose IQ watching this. But after I go to the drawing board, I'm going to raise it back up even higher than it was. So don't worry. Don't click off this video. We gonna get to the facts very soon here. But again, I want to allow these guys every opportunity to do the right thing and present a list that's accurate and honest. That's all I want.
It's disgusting.
Lamont, that's
Finish
not
your
true,
list.
bro.
Take it. Finish your list.
I finished my list, bro.
No,
Also,
we need 10. That was 10.
also, hold on, let me finish, nigga. Oh, I'm gonna get it to you. Don't worry about it. I got something hot for you, pussy ass nigga.
You got
Clyde
Isaiah Thomas
Drexler.
over Shaq.
Clyde,
You got Clyde Drexler
Bro,
over Shaq in the 90s.
can I finish, man? Can I finish? When did Shaq come in the league, Lamont? When did Shaq come in the league? When did Shaq come in the league?
Wasn't it 92?
Yes. And why am I putting Shaq behind? Hold on. What, Lamont? Let me finish. Why am I putting Shaq behind these other dudes? Because they were more established than Shaq was. Shaq didn't get to his prime until goddamn 2000, 99,
Shaq
2000.
came in
nigga.
destroying. Stop it. Shaq came in destroying. Stop it.
Bro, Shaq got destroyed by Hakeem.
2000s. What are you talking about?
about?
You got Isaiah Thomas over
He was
Shaquille
getting
O'Neal in the
swept in the
90s?
90s.
You sound
God, Shaq
crazy.
got destroyed in the finals.
In the
You
What are you
90s.
talking about, bro?
This dude don't know
Bro,
basketball.
Shaq got destroyed in the NBA finals.
This man
You
put
talking
Isaiah
about
Thomas in the 90s.
Man,
over
y'all-
Shaquille
y'all
O'Neal.
y'all
D-Rad him, bro. Because
This
if
dude
y'all
don't know
objective, bro, y'all
basketball.
can't allow this man to put Isaiah Thomas in the top 10 in the 90s, bro. Y'all not being
Bro, Isaiah
Listen,
Thomas
you
was
just
a decent bro. Hold on, time
He-
out. Let me ask you a
He-
question.
He-
Let me ask you. Hey, let me ask you a question, dog. Let me ask you a question.
Shaquille O'Neal
Isaiah,
averaged
hold on,
29 a
what's,
game in
hold
his
on,
third
let's-
year.
hold on. Okay, you know what? I
Second
think
year.
Isaiah out. It don't matter. I can have men to take him out. It don't matter. I still got 10 over John Stockton. And I'll name them again. Michael Jordan, 1. Hakeem Olajuwon, 2. Cocksucker. Karl Malone, 3. Charles Barkley, 4. Dick Stuck. I can go Shaquille O'Neal, 5, if that's how you want to go. 6, I can go Clyde Drexler. 7, I can go fucking goddamn what's his face name from
Alonzo Mourning.
Nah, don't say the thing. I ain't talking about him. I only want so much. Don't give me no name.
Man,
I don't want no name. Patrick, hold on, let me finish. Patrick Ewing. Let me keep going. That's what I was thinking about. Think about
Bro,
Pat Ewing,
you
nigga.
got Ewing over David Robinson?
Bro, let me finish. Yes.
John Stockton.
Yes.
Oh my
I think
God.
Patrick Ewing. Yes. In the 90s, yes. In the 90s.
Oh, man.
You said 90s, right, Lamont?
Yeah, you're right. Okay, let's
In the
go.
90s.
mentioned Gary Payton yet?
What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah.
Bro, can I please get my list? Instead of y'all throw me names, can I
Man,
please
quit
get my
giving
list?
them tips. Quit giving them tips. 'Cause he
Y'all
don't know
fucking me
that
up, man. I don't want no tips. That's what I'm telling y'all. Shut the fuck up and let me get my list. Let me get my list, man. Let me get my list, bro. Bro, y'all fucking my whole mind up, bro. Jordan 1. Let me start it. Hold on, bro. God damn, man. Jordan 1. Number 2, Hakeem. Number 3, Karl Malone. Number 4, Charles Barkley. Number 5, Shaquille O'Neal. Number 6, Clyde Drexler. Number 7, Patrick Ewing. Number 8, let me see. Number 8, I'm gonna go with because I don't want to put Zoe up there that high. Because I got Zoe towards the end of that list. Number 8, I'll go with I'm gonna go number 8. I'm gonna go with Sean Kemp.
I'm gonna tell you guys what's happening right now, because at this point in time, he's already at number 8. He's already at number 8. He hasn't said Scotty Pippen, John Stockton, or Karl Malone. He hasn't. You got to think about this, y'all. I want y'all to think about this. He's already at number 8. He hasn't said Scotty Pippen, John Stockton, or Karl Malone. He's just forced it right now. Right now, he's just seeking for names to put above these guys. It's not about these guys being better. Right now, he's just trying to find names, because there's no credible basketball head that's gonna keep Karl Malone. They're not gonna put Karl Malone outside of the top 5 of the 90s. No credible basketball person is gonna do that. But he's just said Sean Kemp, and he's placed Sean Kemp over Karl Malone John Stockton, and Scottie Pippen. Karl Malone and John Stockton got the 2 NBA Finals, were a great team. Scottie Pippen was the sidekick to Michael Jordan, won 6 NBA Finals, easily the best perimeter defender of the 90s. Arguably with Jordan, if you want to go 1 or 2 there. And you're seeking ways to keep those guys off the list just to sound right for the argument. You see, this is why, and again, I'm going to tell you right now, this is the exact reason why this is where they lose credibility. Because right now he's creating a list that's not accurate at all. It's not accurate. And so again, what we're going to do when we go to the board, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to pull up as many top 10 90s players lists that we can find. And I want to see if any of these lists have Karl Malone ranked so low. I want to see if any of these lists don't include John Stockton. I want to see if any of these lists put Charles Barkley in the top 5. I really want to see this. Again, a lot of these things, what they're doing is they're being nonsensical right now. And these are 90s fans. But see, again, I don't call them 90s fans. What these guys are right here, they're Jordan fans. And what Jordan fans do, anything that can possibly give credit to someone other than Jordan, they try to diminish that. He's intentionally not saying Scottie Pippen. Here's what he's doing. He's intentionally saying it. All right? Just because I said it. When we talk about John Stockton, I said John Stockton and Karl Malone were 2 top 10 players in the NBA. He's intentionally not putting these 2 guys in this top 10 because I said they were top 10. This is not about having common sense or reason. Because anybody with common sense, logic, and reason who knows 90s basketball knows that Karl Malone is definitely top 5 in the 90s. And you can easily put John Stockton in the top 10. Easily one of the most impactful players of the 90s, of the Utah Jazz in that era. But again, we see how far people will reach just to sound right. But again, we're going to debunk all of this later. I apologize for lowering your IQ with this nonsense. We're going to hear a little bit more. I don't know if he's going to finish this list out, so this may be the end of it, but we're going to play a little bit more just so we can get straight to the facts.
Number 9. That's for nigga. Sean Kemp went to the NBA Finals. Hold on, what are you laughing for? Sean Kemp went to the NBA. You want me to call out Sean Kemp stats? You want me to call out Sean Kemp stats?
Man, this starting to turn into a joke.
I'm like, this nigga right here. Watch this.
Starting to turn into a joke.
Hold on, y'all.
I thought you were serious about
time out.
He said, hold on, time out. Time out.
He said in the 90s. Time out. He said in the 90s. The fuck is y'all niggas laughing about? This nigga said in the 90s, right? Bro, in the 90s, do you not know what Sean Kemp averaged? Huh? He said in the 90s, bro.
Do you know what he averaged in the 90s?
Yes, I know what he averaged.
What did he average in the 90s?
He averaged better than John Stockton.
Okay.
Go pull the numbers up. The only thing John Stockton averaged better was assists. Cocksucker. He averaged better points and he averaged better rebounds in the 90s. Shut the fuck up.
You're pulling up points per game. You're not talking about impact.
I said he averaged better points. Bro, I said he averaged better points and better rebounds in the 90s. The only thing John Stockton averaged better was assists. Sean Kemp averaged better points, rebounds, and blocks. Dummy.
Well, John Stockton had a higher win share.
What do you mean he had a higher win share?
What you mean? That means something.
What are you talking about? Okay, you pull up John Stockton's win share for the 90s and pull up Sean Kemp's.
He's killing
a lot.
Okay, so again, what we're gonna do is we just gonna head to the drawing board. The last thing Ticket said was pull up John Stockton's win share, compare it to Sean Kemp's win share, see who's higher. Well, again, we already know Stockton's is higher because he was 4th in the 90s in win shares. But we're going to pull those numbers up just to debunk that as well. See, again, I'm going to tell you guys, again, the reason why I'm playing this back, because, again, I want you guys to play this out. I'm walking you along to show you exactly how these guys get out, especially when they talk about the 90s. You guys think I'm joking. You guys think I'm joking when I say these things. Now, we saw all of the cap. We saw all of the cap. We just heard a list. We just heard one of the most awkward and the most weird top 10 players list of the 90s, were a list that included Isaiah Thomas. We had to talk some common sense into him so he can take Isaiah Thomas off the list and put Shaq in the right position. All right. Then he goes on to elevate all of these players over Scottie Pippen, John Stockton, and Karl Malone just so he doesn't have to state their name all out of pride. It's not out of logic, it's out of pride, because right now you're defeated. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the drawing board. We're going to go to the drawing board, and on the drawing board, the first thing we got to go through, we're going to go through all of the websites. We're going to find as many of these lists as we can find, whether it's Bleach Report, Sports Illustrated, NBA.com. I'm talking about every top 10 90s list we can find. We're going to scroll through and see what these top 10 lists look like. All right, we're gonna scroll through it. I want to see if any of these lists leave Karl Malone outside of the top 5. I want to see if any of these lists leave John Stockton outside of the top 10. I want to see if any of these lists leave Scotty Pippen outside of the top 5. I want to see if any of these lists put Charles Barkley in the top 5. And we got a lot of stuff to debunk here. So you know what? We're gonna head over to the drawing board right now, and the ether is about to be in full effect. All right, so guys, we got our first ranking list here. Again, we're going to run through as many lists as we can. Again, I just want to see where everybody's mind is at. I want to make sure that my list isn't crazy. Again, in my top 5, I got Jordan, I got Hakeem, I got David Robinson, I got Karl Malone, and I got Scottie Pippen. I just want to see if that's just my top 5. And as I've always stated, once you really get outside of the top 2, which is Hakeem and Jordan, it is based on preference. It's based on who you like, what teams you like. You know, we know that 90s basketball was really emotional, so there's actually players that those guys hated. So some people just absolutely didn't like the David Robinson, or he absolutely didn't like Karl Malone. I can understand that, but when we're making a list like this, you got to remove all biases. You just got to be honest about people's games and try to break it down fairly. So this is why I'm looking at multiple lists. I'm not going to be biased. I'm not just going to use the list here at NBA.com. And so I'll tell you, the list here at NBA.com is based on something called power rankings. Power rankings goes off a point system. And this point system, what goes into this particular point system, it's going to be your win shares, it's going to be your points per game, it's going to be your championships, your accolades. All of this is figured into a point system that ranks and rates players. So again, this list, because of the ranking system, it may be a little bit biased, but that's why we're going to also look at Bleacher Report's list, Sports Illustrated's list, and so on forth. We're going to look through a lot of people's lists because not everybody likes to go off this power ranking. So as you can see here, we're going to start with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, obviously, we know that Michael Jordan is going to be the one, and Hakeem Olajuwon is probably going to be the number 2 on most of these lists. So we have Michael Jordan, 135 points on the power ranking at number 1. We're going to go ahead and we got Hakeem Olajuwon at number 2 with 125 points for the power ranking. Again, the power ranking is showing to be very accurate right now. Again, we see Olajuwon in the 90s, 23 points a game, 11 rebounds. And then we see the stats that shows on the screen right here. All right. He was 7th in the 90s in win shares. Again, win shares is very important because what win shares help you understand is they help you understand how impactful was this player towards the team's ability to win. Hakeem Olajuwon was extremely impactful for that team's ability to win. 2 championships, he was great. We don't really have to go into explanation to explain why these players was great, but I do want to break down some of these numbers that might be new to some of you guys. Hakeem Olajuwon, number 2 on this list. We got Karl Malone, number 3, 115 points, deservedly so. We got David Robinson at number 4 in the power rankings for the 90s players on NBA.com. Number 5, Scottie Pippen with 98 points, is exactly where I had him, number 5. I really can't put him higher than that. But again, he was 8th in win shares in the 90s. And again, you guys see all the accolades, but the power rankings, according to NBA.com, has him at 5th. Now what we need to check for is, well, obviously we know that Charles Barkley wasn't in the top 5. The second thing we want to look at is we want to look at David Robinson's points per game, because Ticket said that David Robinson's stats in the 90s were better than Charles Barkley. So what we see here is, we see right here that David Robinson averaged 24.4 points a game, 11.5 rebounds, and 3.4 blocks per game in the 90s. And again, we're talking about the 90s era, so we're using 90s stats. So in the 90s, this was David Robinson's era. So Ticket TV said Charles Barkley had better numbers than that. We're going to see when we get to Charles Barkley. But as we see right here, Charles Barkley isn't even in the top 5. But let's go ahead and see where Charles Barkley falls. We got Shaquille O'Neal at number 6, extremely impactful in the 90s. When you're putting up 27 points per game and 12 rebounds, we have to put you in the top 10. There's no leaving him out. 6 is a great spot for him. We got Charles Barkley at 7. All right. But when we look at the stats, David Robinson averaged more points, They averaged about the same amount of rebounds. And again, we know that Charles Barkley wasn't a defensive player, so I don't expect to see a high number of blocks or steals. But he did average 4.2 assists per game. I guess that's decent. But David Robinson averaged over 3 blocks per game. He was one of the most elite defenders in the 90s. They both have MVPs. The only knock that I have against David Robinson is he never met Jordan in the finals, but David Robinson did get a championship in the 90s, so I give him his credit. He was able to win a championship in the 90s. All right, next up we have John Stockton, another guy. People said I was crazy for having John Stockton and Karl Malone in my top 10. We see John Stockton falls at number 8. This is the power rankings. The power rankings includes a lot of things like what you do on the court. It also includes your win shares. And as we see right here, John Stockton is fourth in the 90s in win shares. What he did on the court had a direct impact to that team's ability to win. At 9, we got Patrick Ewing. He deserved it there. Great stat line. He definitely struggled with the Knicks in the tough Eastern Conference against the Bulls. And then at 10, we have Gary Payton. Again, Gary Payton. Now, on Ticket's list, he had Sean Kemp over a guy like Gary Payton. I think Gary Payton was the better player on that team. A lot of people. Gary Payton was not only one of the best offensive player on that team. Gary Payton was also the best defensive player on that team. So how Ticket TV had Sean Kemp over Gary Payton in his top 10, again, completely blows my mind that you would forget players like Gary Payton. You forget players like Karl Malone, John Stockton, and Scotty Pippen, all to try to make your list look right. All right, and this is the top 10 right there. We don't see a Clyde Drexler. So according to the power rankings, and again, these power rankings are not people putting there. It's a power ranking. It's a metric system that calculates what you do on the court, accolades, averages, and things of that nature, and puts you in order on a point system. Gary Payton at number 10, and we got Reggie Miller falling into the honorable mention. Clyde Drexler falls at 12. Grant Hill at 13. So according to these power rankings, it has some of these guys outside. I spoke with Ticket earlier. I felt that Scottie Pippen was better than Grant Hill in the 90s. I honestly and truly believe that. And so, again, it just shows in the power rankings. But what we're going to do is we're going to find another list. We're going to check out another list to see how my list and Ticket's list fare on another ranking list. All right, so we moved on to another list. This list was created by Bleacher Report. And again, a lot of you guys, especially if you're you put out content and news on YouTube, a lot of us rely on reports from Bleacher Report and let's say Clutch Points, to get the drop on some stories. And I love referencing their content because for the most part they're non-biased, and I love how they put out the news. Bleacher Report and Clutch Points. So according to Bleacher Report's list. And again, this is just a second list. And again, we're only going through multiple lists, so it doesn't show bias towards one list. Because again, what you'll hear a lot of people say is, oh, that list is biased. So I want to go through multiple lists created by multiple entities or people to see how these lists fare against mine. So in this list right here, obviously we got Michael Jordan at number 1. We have Hakeem Olajuwon at number 2. And again, 1 and 2 are always going to be the same. Those two are undoubtedly the top 2 in the 90s. We got David Robinson 3. That's consistent with my list. Karl Malone 4. Very consistent with my list. Oh, once again, we got Scottie Pippen at 5 on Bleacher Report's list. All right. And again, in the 90s, we're basing it off what he did in the 90s. If you look at Scottie Pippen's stats in the 90s, 19.2 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, 5.9 assists, 2.2 steals, 48% field goal shooting. Unbelievable field goal percentage for a perimeter player. And that's from 1990 to 1999. That's a span of 10 seasons. All right. Again, and these stats right here don't even account for his defensive dominance. And later on in the show, we're going to break down videos. Kobe Bryant did a great job of breaking down videos on how great Pippen was defensively. And Karl Malone spoke about him. We're going to break down also video from other NBA players, 90s players who speak highly of Scottie Pippen and why they also rank him in their top 5. So we got Scottie Pippen at 5, Shaquille O'Neal 6, very consistent. Charles Barkley 7. Again, you're not going to find Charles Barkley in the top 5 of anybody's list that I can think of. He wasn't a top 5 player. All right, mainly because he only played one side of the ball. All right, and again, a lot of you guys, you can contest that, you can disagree with it. All you have to do is do your research on it. And I got a video coming a little later on in this video of Michael Jordan specifically talking about Charles Barkley's defense and how he himself also thought it was a joke. All right, John Stockton on this list as well at number 8. Again, you're not going to find John Stockton off of too many people's lists. Anybody with some type of basketball common sense knows how impactful what he did was in the 90s. And again, what we're constantly referencing here is what you did in the 90s. So one thing we won't see on any of these lists, and I can almost guarantee it, you're not going to see Magic Johnson or Isaiah Thomas on any of these lists in the 90s. They did not do enough in the 90s to be put on this list. Number 9, you got Clyde Drexler. Now on the last list in the power rankings, they had Drexler outside of the top 10. All right, now in my list, I think in my top 10, I think I might have had Drexler either low towards 10 or right outside of my top 10. I can't remember. Patrick Ewing at 10. I can't argue with that. Usually when you get, again, anything after 5 is subjective. Sean Kemp's right outside. So in this list, they have Sean Kemp ranked higher than Gary Payton. And again, I can't really knock that list. I don't agree with it. They got Gary Payton at 16 and Sean Kemp over. I don't necessarily agree with it, but again, I can't knock that list because I don't think Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. I consider them both superstars of that era. But I don't consider, I maybe can only consider Gary Payton a top 10 player. But this is the Bleacher Report list. And again, this Bleacher Report list is consistent with what I've always believed. I have Charles Barkley outside of the top 5. I have John Stockton in the top 10. I have Scottie Pippen in the top 5. Isaiah Thomas is definitely not in. And even on this list, Sean Kemp's not even in the top. So again, my list is once again consistent. Again, where Ticket TV is getting this, and Ticket TV again, his biases. He kept Karl Malone off the list. He kept John Stockton off the list. He kept Scottie Pippen off the list. He kept Gary Payton off his list. And again, why the biases toward those players? What makes those other guys better than who I just said? Karl Malone should easily be in everybody's top 5, hands down, no question asked. And I don't think we'll see a list with Karl Malone outside of the top 5. So what we're going to do again is we're going to go to another list. Again, this is the absolute ether because people like to say I like to play with these things. We're going to go to multiple sources on this to see, who's doing all the capping. All right, we back, man. We back with this new list right here. Now, this list is from tiebreakersports.com. We got Tiebreaker Sports. This is going to be, we're going to go through their top 10 list. As you can already see right here, we know who the number 1 player is always going to be in these lists. It's going to be Michael Jordan. Number 2 is always going to be Hakeem Olajuwon. If you don't have those guys 1 or 2, then you obviously didn't watch 90s basketball. All right, so there's no shade to the 1 and the 2. All right, but this list right here, they got Karl Malone at number 2. Now, again, I don't like Karl Malone at 2. But again, as long as you have these guys in the top 5 and Karl Malone, again, with this guy, if he didn't run into Jordan, he would have championships too. All right, if he didn't run into that Bulls team, maybe he has championships. But again, they have him at number 2. You're looking at one of the guys who is the all-time leading scorer in the NBA. That has to say something. He's the all-time leading scorer in the NBA. So you know what? Even though I don't agree with this list, what we want to see is consistency. Let's look for consistency. David Robinson at 3. That's surprising to me. David Robinson at 3. I don't like that. Hakeem should definitely be 2. Tiebreaker. This list is not looking very credible. But again, it's still consistently the same guys. You got Karl Malone, David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon in the top 4. All right. Now, here's the catch. Is Scottie Pippen at 5? Let's find out. All right. So we got Hakeem Olajuwon this at 4. Again, I don't agree with that. I think he should be at 2, but at least they have him in the top 5. Next up, we got Scottie Pippen at number 5, y'all. Scottie Pippen at number 5. Again, we've been to multiple lists here. What's been that consistent theme? Scottie Pippen has been considered one of the top 5 players of the 90s. This is consistent. So I really want to know where you guys are getting this narrative from that Scottie Pippen wasn't top 10 or wasn't considered by many to be top 10, because we're on our 3rd list already. And one of the most consistent themes is that Scottie Pippen always finds himself right at that 5 spot. Guys don't want to put him outside of the top 10. All right, we got Charles Barkley at 6. Again, that's controversial. I think Shaq is always going to be ahead of Charles Barkley, but again, I can't really knock it. Again, I can't really knock that. Charles Barkley was great in his own right. We got this list at John Stockton at 7. Wow, John Stockton ahead of Shaquille O'Neal. That's surprising, but again, you're not going to find too many lists that don't include John Stockton in the top 10. That makes absolutely no sense if you watch 90s basketball. I've been a heavy critic of the 90s, and I'm not going to be stupid enough to leave John Stockton off a top 10 list in the 90s. Why? Because I'm not biased. I have no reason to. I have no emotional ties or connections to these players. So my list is going to mirror more realistic list. You know, for a guy like Ticket, he's emotionally tied to guys like Isaiah Thomas, and he's emotionally tied to always trying to be right or always trying to be. So his list reflects those flawed principles. Again, what you want to try to do is you want to try to be like FYFs. Forget your feelings, make a list based off facts, and you won't get caught up in this ether wave that I'm unleashing on you right now. Next up, we got Clyde Drexler. Again, Clyde Drexler. I don't think that a lot of these guys should be above Shaq, but you know, Shaq didn't start winning championships until the 2000s. Again, Shaq's at least in the top 10, so I respect him for that. And this list right here has Reggie Miller at 10. I can't argue that either. Reggie Miller was great in his own right, and even Jordan said it himself. The Indiana Pacers was his toughest competition in the NBA playoffs, in the NBA playoffs his whole time in his career. So I appreciate that for Reggie Miller. So you see this top 10 list. This top 10 list, again, is very consistent with what I've been saying. Charles Barkley's outside of the top 5. Scotty Pippen's in the top 5. John Stockton's always going to be in the top 10. And Karl Malone definitely should be in your top 5. All right, we saw this. None of these things matched up on Ticket's list. Again, he had Isaiah Thomas in his list. We had to talk him out of that nonsense. Again, y'all see the inconsistency. Y'all see what's going on here. And you guys know I'm going to continue on. I'm going to go to another site. We're going to see how another list fares against mine. Because, again, we're going for the max ether. Because people call me crazy for having John Stockton in my top 10. They call me crazy for having Scottie Pippen at 5. But we've been to multiple lists that are consistent with my premise. Okay, so we have another list here. This was compiled by sportscasting.com. Now, with sportscasting.com, what they did was, again, when you rely on human voters, the list can kind of get screwed. So what they use the analytic that's very commonly used in the NBA. It's called value over replacement. And again, it's another analytic that it gives your impact on that team, your direct impact on that team. And again, now, do I completely agree with David Robinson, as you can see, being number 1? According to this particular metric, David Robinson was more valuable to his team, value over replacement, than some of these other guys. But what I'm hoping for, again, what we're looking for, again, the top 5, I want the top 5 to remain consistent. All right, if you can shuffle them up, and as I said before, I think Hakeem and Jordan should always be number 1 and 2, at least on any human list. Analytical lists may be a little bit different, but I even want to see if some of these analytical lists mirror what I've been saying. Again, I don't want to just go off what I've been saying. I don't want to go off any biased lists made by humans. We heard Haas say yesterday that there were millennials making these lists. Well, these analytics don't care about millennials. They don't care about 90s fans or Jordan fans or LeBron sexuals. It doesn't care about all of that. It just cares about the numbers. And so they have David Robinson ranked number 1 with the highest value over replacement. David Robinson was a beast. He was a beast in the 90s, and we saw what happened to that team when he got injured and was out for an entire season. When he was injured and was out for an entire season, that team was a lottery team and got Tim Duncan in the draft that year. So again, it's something. Again, I don't agree with having him at 1, but if the metric says so, we'll just go with the metric. At least he's in the top 5. We got Karl Malone number 2. All right, you're talking about extremely high volume score. His value over replacement is definitely going to be higher than a lot of people's. You're talking about, I think he was the only 20 per game scorer on that team. The same with David Robinson, only 20 point per game scorer on that team. His value over replacement is going to be really high. Now this has Michael Jordan, value over replacement at 58.3. But again, the top 5 are still looking very consistent with what I've chosen. Whether you mix and match, and again, this is an analytic. Whether you mix and match them, my top 5 is still consistent with what I've said. At 4, we got Charles Barkley, value over replacement. Again, he eventually made the top 5 in a list. Congratulations, Ticket. There's been one list that's been consistent with something that you said, value over replacement list. Even though this has been one of the more flawed looking lists that we've seen, it actually aligns with Charles Barkley being in the top 5. Value over replacement has Scottie Pippen in the top 5. Scottie Pippen's in the top 5. Once again, I'm right again. Scottie Pippen's in the top 5. See, Ticket got happy when he saw that. He thought it was Sean Kemp. No, it's Hakeem Olajuwon, you guys. Hakeem Olajuwon at number 6. I think he should be number 1 or 2 on anybody's list. But again, he's up there, so I can't knock it. Clyde Drexler, number 7. Reggie Miller, number 8. Even with value over replacement, John Stockton finds himself in the top 10. See, Ticket thought it was going to be Steve Kerr because he's in the background. No, it's John Stockton. John Stockton finds himself in the top 10 once again, even in the metrics, even in the analytical list, value over replacement. And then at number 10, we got Jeff Hornacek, value over replacement. So what we've seen here in our most flawed looking list, my points have still been very consistent, and Ticket finally got something right. Charles Barkley finally made the top 5 in the value over replacement list. Now, again, this is just a metric. This is not ranking players. This is just ranking your value over replacement on your team. So it's a little bit different. But again, I like going with different metrics just to see what people have to say. We're going to move on to the next. All right, next up, this is the last list I'm going to do. Again, you guys can go look up some of your own list. But this list right here was compiled by Complex Sports. Again, another reputable site that, again, they put out reliable news. So I trust their judgment on this one. But you guys, what you can do is you can go look up other lists on your own. See how they fare based on what I've stated and what Ticket stated. Again, I honestly feel that Ticket's list was biased just to sound right. Whenever you leave Karl Malone outside of the top 5, that's ridiculous. Whenever you force it and put John Stockton outside of the top 10, I think you're sounding ridiculous and you're not being honest just because you want to sound right. Whenever you put Scottie Pippen outside of your top 10, I think you're just a overhyped Jordan fan and you're just trying to elevate Jordan to make it look as if he did everything by himself while diminishing Scottie Pippen. That's all you're doing there. But we're going to go through this list. Michael Jordan at 1. Hakeem Olajuwon at 2. I love the list so far. Karl Malone at 3. Again, Karl Malone is not going to be outside of the top 5 on any list. Scottie Pippen 4. This list has him a little bit higher. Complex. Let's hear why. Let's hear why. He was a great scorer too. Ticket doesn't believe he was a great scorer. Scotty was a great scorer. All right, he was just mostly a slasher. That's all. But yeah, they got Scottie Pippen at 4. I can't argue. I feel like he's top. I'm still looking to find the list with Scotty outside of the top 5. I'm not finding it. All right, and number 5 we got David Robinson. Again, David Robinson, great player, did a lot in his career. Epic 71-point game. I love it. Charles Barkley at 6. Once again, we got John Stockton on this list. Again, John Stockton's always going to be on these lists. If you try to say that John Stockton wasn't a top 10 player in the 90s, you're a complete idiot. And what you're doing is you're just trying to make up narratives to sound right. Let's stop doing that. Use facts over feelings. Let's stop doing that. Be a basketball, be a basketball savant. Go do some research on these players. Understand John Stockton's game. Let's give him his respect. Let's not act like he was just a guy out there dropping off passes to Karl Malone. No, he was a stout defender. He was one of the most physical defenders in the 90s, even though he was a small white guard. All right. He had a great jump shot. He had an extremely high field goal percentage. He was extremely efficient in what he did. 8 All-Star games, 9 All-NBA teams, 7 times the NBA assist leader. He made the NBA defensive team 4 times. Hey, Charles Barkley. John Stockton made the NBA defensive team 4 times. Hey, Charles Barkley, you made it 0 times. But you got people out here capping for you saying you were a great or good or okay defender. I beg to differ, but the video is going to debunk that later. We're going to see what Jordan has to say on Charles Barkley's defense here in a little bit. All right, number 8, we got Patrick Ewing. I can't be mad at that. Clyde Drexler at 9, Shaquille O'Neal at 10. I would like to see Shaquille O'Neal a little higher than that, you guys. All right, when a man can come into the league and average 29 points in his second season, that's absolute domination. And for idiots out there who say his numbers didn't have an impact, I really, really suggest that you actually go out and watch some Shaquille O'Neal videos, because you really, really have idiots out there that will say Shaquille O'Neal's numbers did not have any impact. This is what Jordan fans will say. And again, all you have to do, go back to the Ticket T video, and listen to the whole thing. You're going to run across a lot of dumb things that they say just to sound right, as opposed to checking people regardless of who it is when they're actually wrong about something. See, one of the things I'm not afraid to do is if I don't feel like you're saying something correct, I'm gonna either one, question you on it, or I'm going to two, debunk you on it. And so again, a lot of people who say questionable things hate to get questioned on it because they don't have the answers. And so what happens when you don't have the answers? What you do is you see toxic behavior. You see toxic behavior get exposed. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to some video elements that back up these points that I've been talking about. The first video element, again, that I want to talk about is how a lot of these people were capping for Charles Barkley's defense. You know, we have a lot of people saying that this man Charles Barkley was great defensively. So you know what? We're gonna go to the video. We're gonna see what Michael Jordan had to say about Charles Barkley's defense.
Like, truthfully, playing against Charles Barkley.
The one moment that I can pick with Charles, we were playing Philly in the playoffs, and I guess I got into a hot rhythm, and I had about.
What was it like, truthfully, playing against Charles Barkley?
The one moment that I can pick with Charles, we were playing Philly in the playoffs, and I guess I got into a hot rhythm, and I had about 40-some points, and Charles was yelling. I can hear him yelling in the huddle, talking about, who's going to guard this guy? Somebody's got to guard this guy. That's all right. I guard this guy. So I go in, and we're playing, and we got into a switch, and Charles jumps out and guards me. And yeah, I never known Charles as a defensive stopper. So the first thing he does, he breaks down in this defensive position with hands up. Everything looks technically right. And I just laugh. I say, when the hell are you going to start playing defense? And who taught you how to get in a defensive stance? And I had to pass it. But that's the type of guy, he would take on a challenge, even though he was not up to the challenge. He didn't care. And that's just him.
Do you speak that highly?
You guys heard it right there, man. All right, so what I did, because I needed these Jordan fans to hear it from Michael Jordan, so that they wouldn't just think I'm capping. I'm not the only one that thought Charles Barkley was a mannequin on defense. What did Jordan say? Do we need to go back and replay it? Let's go back and replay it again. We got to play this again because I know we're going to be dealing with some slow people. We're going to be dealing with extremely slow people. So we're going to play this one more time for the Jordan fans that believe Charles Barkley was this defensive stopper, this great defensive player. This is how comical Charles Barkley's defense was in the 90s. This is how comical it was. You guys listen to your GOAT. Listen to the GOAT. He's telling you guys to get off that bandwagon saying that Charles Barkley was a great defensive player. Get off that bandwagon quick, fast, in a hurry. Listen to the GOAT. He's giving you guys some instructions.
That I can pick with Charles, we were playing Philly in the playoffs, and I guess I got into a hot rhythm, and I had about 40-some points, and Charles was yelling. I can hear him yelling in the huddle, talking about, who's going to guard this guy? Somebody's got to guard this guy. That's all right. I guard this guy. So I go in, and we're playing, and we got into a switch, and Charles jumps out and guards me. And yeah, I never known Charles as a defensive stopper. So the first thing he does, he breaks down in this defensive position with hands up. Everything looks technically right. And I just laugh. I say, when the hell are you going to start playing defense? And who taught you how to get in a defensive stance?
Who taught you how to get in the defensive stance? Charles Barkley was so comical. Michael Jordan said to himself, who taught you how to get in the defensive stance? That's how comical. See, this is what's so weird. Without me ever having seen this video before today, how did I know Charles Barkley struggled on the defensive end of the court? But 90s fans and Jordanites and Jordan fans didn't notice. Jordan fans will cap and lie to you about these players until I bring out the video evidence. So again, I don't want to bring out any other sources because there's plenty of articles from players and coaches talking about how bad Charles Barkley's defense was. I needed you guys to hear directly from Michael Jordan himself that this man was a joke on defense. It's kind of like putting Isaiah Thomas in your top 10 in the 90s. Much like Charles Barkley's defense. It was a complete and utter joke. That's all it was. But you know what? I digress. We're going to move on to the next topic again. We're going to move on.
I want to thank Scotty Pippen as he shut down 5 guys on the team. Scotty wanted to play everybody, and he did play everybody. And one thing great about him, he could play all the positions.
And let me tell you something. Scotty says, I'm not going to let him score. Tony Kukoc was like going nuts. He was scared to dribble. I mean, Scotty had him so terrified. He scored less than 10 points. And this one, he was like considered the best European player in the world.
It's a little early to be casting MVP ballots now, but Scottie Pippen is raising some eyebrows.
Yeah, he defines the position at this in this field, the
number three spot.
The 3 spot. Yeah, he's a guy that he's leading them in points and rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, and minutes, and he can do everything. He has a defensive demeanor, and he can do it all offensively.
Right, and Scott Williams, that's a lot of interior defense and rebounding to make up for it. But now Scottie Pippen is continuing to put up all-star numbers as he virtually leads the Bulls in every category.
You can point to a specific point of the game and say that's where it changed. But you can't in this one.
Yeah, we're going to do it for you. Scottie Pippen, they put him on Barkley. Barkley was really having his own way in any direction he wanted. They put Pippen on him. He fronted him. And normally when you front someone, you can't rise like this. Fight a guy like Barkley with his strength. Watch this play. That tells you what Pippen is all about. Gets the break started. And from that moment on, they took control of the game.
I would have to say I would start it with Scottie Pippen. I would have to start my team with Scottie Pippen.
So why would you take Scotty over Michael or Matt?
This is why I would take Scotty. Do you remember the time that Michael retired? I watched, well, the second, third time, whatever. But anyway, but look, I'm trying to get, look, I'm serious here.
I know you are. I know you.
I watched Scottie Pippen when the Chicago Bulls wasn't really good. And Scotty led that team in every statistical category. And I just remember that. And plus, he's a guy that can care less about scoring. He want to stop the best player on the other team. And I dare say, since, while we're in this conversation, that would have been pretty cool to see Scotty guarding Michael.
Small forward. Ooh, good question. I'm going to have to go... I'm going to go with Scottie Pippen.
So no LeBron and no Larry Legend.
Well, LeBron, I could play him at the 5.
The guy was always there when I needed him. Any kind of guy. The guy came out every day. He pushed me to be the best basketball player that I can be in practice every single day.
And you guys, the only other way I can break down how great Scottie Pippen was is the only other player that I knew who could actually break down on video how great this man was. Because again, when I talk about Scottie Pippen, when we heard Ticket talking about Scottie Pippen, he was comparing his points per game to this other guy's points per game. I've said multiple times, what made Scottie Pippen great had nothing to do with stats. That's not what made him great. The fact that he was able to lead his team in every statistical category in 1994, that's not what's made Scottie Pippen great. This man was great because he had the skill set to do anything that the team needed him to do. If he needed to guard the best player on any given night, he could do it. If he needed to be the best playmaker on any given night, his team could rely on him to do it. If they needed him to score, his team relied on him to also do that as well if they needed him to supplement Jordan's scoring. There are not that many players in the NBA where you can literally change their role or assignment up on a night-by-night basis and say, on this night I need you to defend. On this night you need to score. On this night you need to play make. On this, he had a moving role. And what I always have said, that's not easy to do, especially at the NBA level, where with most guys, you have a defined role. And Scottie Pippen had multiple defined roles, and those roles changed on a night in and night out basis. And he was able to lock in for a 10-year stretch, and not just lock in for a 10-year stretch, but also be elite. So what we're going to break down right here is obviously, you know, the man, the myth, the legend, Kobe Bryant, in his detail series on Scottie Pippen. And again, I'm only going to play a little bit of it, but I want you guys to hear what he had to say about Scottie Pippen's game. And again, this is not just me watching clips. I actually watched Scottie Pippen play in the 90s. I actually watched him play in 96, 97, 98. I watched those games. All right. So again, this is not just, I want you guys to see how he break down Scottie Pippen game and how one of the legends, how one of the GOATs of this game, how he feels about Scottie Pippen's basketball game on the court.
If I'm a young player coming into the league today, I would really focus on the defensive end of the floor and look at Scottie Pippen. I mean, this guy was a genius. His ball pressure, playing passing lanes, blocking shots, taking charges, and he played with a passion on the defensive end of the floor like, no, this is the most exciting part of the game to me. All right, so here again, Scotty's initiating the action. He's making Mark work to bring the ball up the floor, okay? That's one. Now, where he's pushing him into situations where Mark can't really attack. Right here, you got Michael sitting here waiting, right? That area is clogged up. There's nowhere for him to go. Scotty's fully aware of that, so he knows he can put a lot of pressure on him in these areas because there's nowhere for him to drive. And so now, where is Mark looking, right? He's looking for these curl actions here. Yeah, he couldn't run the play, right? Scotty took the play away from him. Here he cuts the angle off. Now Mark says, okay, I got to attack him. He's bodying up on me. I'm going to attack him. Mark attacks him here. But now Scotty, sensing that Mark wants to feel the contact, right? Because Scotty's been bodying him this whole time. So now Mark seeks the contact and Scotty just backs up. Scotty just backs up. I mean, that's just brilliant defense. I mean, think about that for a second. I mean, he's bodying Mark the whole game. Body him. Now Mark's looking for Scotty's body, and Scotty just moves back and lets Mark lose his balance. That's a game of cat and mouse right there. Okay, again, Scotty's making the reads. He knows this action. Right, he knows it. Here it is. He knows the ball comes back there. He knows they're looking for Starks coming off of a double screen on the weak side. So he tries to get his hand in that passing lane. He misses it. But this shows me that he is keenly aware of the actions that are taking place out here on the floor, which means he prepares. So if I'm this draft pick coming into the league, I know I got to do my homework. Homework could give you all the answers, right? Scotty knows what's coming there. Right now, this is unbelievable. Look at all the ground this guy covers. Here, down, there. Right, but it's the activity. He plays defense with an energy. Too many players today play defense just to play defense. He's attacking these offensive players. He's going after it. He's playing with an energy out there. If I can learn how to cut angles off like Scotty, be aggressive on the defensive end of the floor like Scotty, I think that'll just take my game and the team that drafts me to an entirely different level. For more analysis, go to Detail on ESPN+.
There you have it right there, man. You guys see you guys know who Kobe Bryant is. You guys know what Kobe Bryant meant to the game of basketball. That's what he had to say about Scottie Pippen. If you're a young player coming into this league, he didn't say watch Michael Jordan. He didn't say watch Hakeem Olajuwon. He didn't say watch Karl Malone. He didn't say watch Charles Barkley. He definitely didn't say watch Isaiah Thomas or Sean Kemp. This man said watch Scottie Pippen. See, it's a reason why one of the GOATs of the game, and I call Kobe one of the GOATs because I feel like there are multiple GOATs. Because I feel like there's a GOAT of every era. And Kobe's one of the GOATs of the game. And this is one of the GOATs of the game giving young guys knowledge on how to be elite at the next level. And one of the things that I really respect about what he said was about preparation. Defense takes preparation. So this is one of the reasons why I elevate what Pippen did defensively. Because in the NBA, you can't just be great defensively. without taking the time to study what other teams do. That's really going above and beyond. I mean, you can go in the gym, you can do defensive slides and shuffle all you want, but if you don't understand what these other teams are running offensively, if you don't understand player tendencies and where they might drive and where they might be on the court, where are their hot spots, where are their cold spots, you're never going to be a great defensive player in the NBA. Scottie Pippen, as Kobe Bryant most eloquently broke down, he broke down every detail to explain to you how Scottie Pippen was prepared and the effort that he gave on the defensive end of the court. You know, so again, when I say I have Scottie Pippen number 5 on my list of the top 90s players, that's why. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be the one to criticize you for putting him lower. All right. I can criticize your list. Like if you put Isaiah Thomas on your list, that's you can easily criticize that because there was no stretch of dominance in the 90s for Isaiah Thomas. And if you say that there was, then you're just lying to yourself. All right. You know, when you talk about guys like John Stockton and you try to put them outside of the top 10 in the 90s, you're intentionally doing so to create a narrative or to push an agenda or just to sound right. You're lying to yourself. When you don't put Karl Malone in your top 5 and you leave him outside of your top 10, you're lying to yourself. When you intentionally, when early on in this video, we remember Tickets TV's first statement when he came onto this video. I said, is Scottie Pippen top 10 in the 90s? He said, yes, I don't have a problem with that. But when he made his list, he made every single effort to not put Scottie Pippen in his top list. He was scratching his head trying to find names. This man reached so deep in his bag of crazy names. He pulled out Sean Kemp and he pulled out Isaiah Thomas, a guy who barely played into the 90s. It was not a factor in the 90s. See, that's what happens when you have biases. That's a perfect example. You can't even be honest. So again, people say I'm capping, but I like to show you guys the facts. This is one of the reasons why I think Scottie Pippen is a top 5 player in the league. I really want you to break down. Why do you feel Sean Kemp is a better player in the 90s than Scottie Pippen? What numbers say that? And again, you want to say that he struggled to score the basketball? And the only thing I'm going to say is, well, if he did, he scored the same amount of points as Sean Kemp because Sean Kemp only averaged 20 points a game one time in his career in the 90s. And Scottie Pippen did the same thing as well. He might have scored 20 a game a few more times than Sean Kemp. And you're putting Sean Kemp ahead of a guy like Gary Payton, who played both sides of the ball. He was an elite scorer and he was an elite defender. Your list is biased. Your list makes no sense. It's nonsensical. And I really suggest that you guys do your homework on the 90s because I shouldn't have to give you guys this long and lengthy ether on Scottie Pippen. Now, the one thing that I do know is that Elder Rufus definitely came on Ticket TV and said Scottie Pippen was a superstar in his top 5 in the 90s. And it's just funny how the energy shifts when he says it because he doesn't get that same vitriol and fire. But you know, when I say it, there's a big problem. There's a big problem. And again, I'm honestly want to know, is it the list that's the problem? Or is it the messenger that's the problem? I know you do. I know you guys hate with a passion when I actually give props to somebody in the 90s. But it's extremely funny how you guys are willing to diminish your own era for absolutely no reason at all, just to try to say that I'm wrong. I want you guys to watch that video. You know what? I'm not even going to end it just yet. I'm going to find the part in the video where, again, you guys know how I spoke on the 90s being watered down because of the addition of 6 expansion teams over a short period of time. I say the 90s was watered down. Hold on. Now, my definition of that, do I mean that there's no talent in the league? No. What I mean is that the talent was spread too thin across the league with 6 expansion teams. The league wasn't ready for 6 additional expansion teams when they expanded. So you dealt with a large number of teams that just couldn't compete for a long period of time. But you know, this is the last thing I'm gonna show you. We're gonna go to that portion where Ticket TV actually uses the argument that the 90s was watered down to try to make a false point on Scottie Pippen. It's absolutely asinine. It's completely funny. It's going to be a great way to end this video.
3.1 blocks, 94, 95, 21.3 points, 9.9.
You feel me?
Hold on. I'm asking him the same question you asked me.
What?
When Jordan was out, why didn't Pippen win no ring? He was running up for MVP in the 90s.
He was in the
Magic
90s.
Johnson was in the. Hold on. Let me keep going. That's what I was thinking about. Thinking about Pat Ewing.
You got you.
Man, this nigga Lamont, man. I don't know what's wrong with Lamont, man.
My bad, ticket. My bad, ticket. Shut the fuck up, nigga. My bad, ticket. Go ahead, nigga. My bad.
Yeah, this nigga doing, man. Nigga trying to cut you off, throw you off. Let me ask you the question.
My bad.
The reason why I have him over Scottie Pippen is because I saw what Pippen was without Mike. Everybody did. Lamont.
Well, he was an MVP candidate. What? He led his team in every statistical category.
Okay, let me ask you one question.
Get out of here.
The man was an MVP candidate 1 year when the league was watered down that year.
Oh, now you want to go with the league is watered down. Oh my God.
No. The year he won MVP. Hold on. I'm gonna tell you.
Live and direct. Again, you guys know that I've been a big proponent of the philosophy that the league was watered down. I've said the league was watered down, not because of the talent, not because players weren't as skilled, because the talent was spread too thin due to expansion teams. The NBA itself diminished the level of competition for the sake of money. They added more teams for money to put more fans in seats, generates more revenue for the NBA. They did not care about diminishing the level of competition. When you add new teams, you have to have expansion drafts. You get to pluck players from different teams to create your own team. You get elevated draft picks because you are an expansion team. So you get a lot of perks that some of these other teams can't get. So when we saw some teams struggle throughout the 90s, like the Dallas Mavericks, like the Clippers, like the Celtics, when we saw teams like this struggle, like the Denver Nuggets, for a period of time, they struggled as well. All of these Sacramento Kings, they struggled all in the 90s. One of the reasons why they struggled so mightily is because of the expansion drafts. A lot of these draft picks in which the Toronto Raptors or the Miami Heat were able to either pluck players or draft great players, as we saw in Toronto when they had Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady at the same time. The reason why Orlando Magic were able to draft Shaq and Penny because of the expansion draft benefits. Well, a lot of these other teams could have actually improved had the league not expanded. So who diminished the level of competition in the 90s? It was the NBA itself. And again, it showed with the expansion draft. So now, again, this is something that they've been completely against. They've been completely against the notion that the league was watered down. And now, just to make the argument that Scottie Pippen, or to make the argument that Shawn Kemp was better than Scottie Pippen in the 90s, he wants to use the argument that the league was watered down in 1994. And that's what allowed Scottie Pippen to have elevated stats in which he led the team in every statistical category. Because in that specific year, no other year, in the 94, that specific year, where Scottie Pippen was great, something that Shawn Kemp never did. In that specific year, the league was watered down. No, the expansion drafts and all of the benefits of being an expansion team, that didn't affect anybody else any other year. It only affected the NBA in 94 when Scottie Pippen probably had arguably one of the greatest seasons in NBA history. So they tried to diminish the greatness of what he actually did by all of a sudden using the watered down argument, which again, the watered down argument applies to the entire 90s, and it has nothing to do with the level of talent. It has nothing to do with that talent. There's still talent in the league. It was spread too thin because there were so many teams. So you take the watered down argument, you use it in a flawed way because you guys lie and try to say that I'm saying that there wasn't any talent in the league when that's not what I was saying. I'm saying you spread the talent that you had too thin. And then you try to apply it to just 1994, and you say that 1994 was watered down. The first year that Michael Jordan was retired, the league was watered down. It wasn't watered down in 95 when he came back and actually lost to Shaq and Penny. It wasn't watered down then. It wasn't watered down in 96 when he beat the Supersonics. It wasn't watered down that next year when they beat the Jazz. It wasn't watered down that following year when they beat the Jazz again. It was only watered down in 1994 when Scottie Pippen had an MVP a caliber season, was second or third in MVP voting, All-Star Game MVP, and just put up great numbers. First player in NBA history to lead his team in every statistical category. That's a very stupid argument. And again, I hate to use that word, but that's the most ridiculous argument for. And again, when I use the word diminish, you went out of your way to use the term watered down. So you not only steal my argument of watered down, you narrow it down to one specific season in the 90s and say that the league was only watered down in 1994. That's why Scottie Pippen was so great. The logic of these Jordan fans is retarded. But see, again, when I call these people out with their logic, again, this is why LeBron fans think you guys are absolutely ridiculous, because you guys blow at the wind. You know, the one thing I respect about people like Elder Roof is at least he stands on his points, and his arguments don't blow at the wind. You guys blow at the wind. You know, when we're talking about 90s players, all of a sudden championships don't apply. It's just about the talent. When I try to apply championships and winning to Scottie Pippen, all of a sudden championships don't matter. It's about being the better player. When we talk about LeBron James, championships matter. He has a 4-6 record in the finals. It's not about being the best player. You guys are. This is credibility. This is y'all credibility on the line here. And again, all I do here is I just take everything to the drawing board and I just get to exposing it bit by bit. So again, if you guys want me to stop doing complete ether videos where I just completely massacre you guys very easily, might I add, again, because you guys make it extremely easy when you do stuff like put Isaiah Thomas in your top 10 of the 90s, as if this man was a wrecking ball in the 90s when we know he was an 80s player. You know, when you guys run around saying you're going to put Alonzo Mourning in your top 10 of the 90s, when this man, yes, he put up a great stat line, but the man was not a winner in the 90s. He did not become a winner in his career until the 2000s. He did not become a champion until he played under the tutelage of a guy like Dwayne Wade. That's how he was a champion. It's just sad, some of the arguments that you guys hold on to. I'm still waiting on somebody to try to debunk me. I'm still waiting on somebody to actually come up with their own drawing board to debunk these facts. Just still waiting on that drawing board to happen again. Or what I'm really waiting on is I'm waiting on somebody to actually come into the live chat, because I know you guys see the live debates where you can actually win money if you take me on head on, and you can win a prize. And I'm still waiting to see somebody actually come into my channel and debate me head on to try to win that prize money. That's all you got to do. So until you guys do that, what we're going to keep doing over here is we're going to keep on giving away PS5s. We got 2 PS5s to give away. All right? We got 2 PS5s to give away. And if you stuck around for this whole video and you want 3 entries, and I'm going to give you guys 3 entries, because what's going to happen is we're going to do the drawing. We're going to do the drawing the same day that this video drops. We're going to do the drawing the same day, because I'm also going to be going live the day that this video drops. Right? So it's not going to be too many entries. I want to give you guys, I want to see if you guys were real fans of the show. If you stuck around and watched this video to the end. If you watched this video to the end, I need you to type in the chat, Ticket Got Ether. All right? Now, actually, you know, it's not just that. We're going to put Ticket, Haas, and Anna Got Ether. I need you to spam it up in the comments. Spam it up in the comments. For everybody that does that. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you 5 entries. 5 entries for everybody that does that. 5 entries into the bowl. And what we're going to do is just like we did before. Put it in the bowl, mix the names up, pull the name out. All right, but you know what? This is not a 3-week or 2-week drawing where we can compile a big bowl of names. No. We're just doing the drawing today. I need everybody who was loyal, everybody who stuck around and watched this video to the end. I need you to type in the chat, Ticket, Hoss, Anna, Ether. You guys are done. Stop talking about Scottie Pippen. Stop diminishing your own error. All right, you guys, I wish you guys would actually start listening to Elder. He's one of the smartest brothers out there, and he's telling you guys himself. This is a guy who's not biased. This guy, he's not made any hit videos on the 90s. He's not diminished Jordan whatsoever. He takes complete pride in everything that he says. And he's supremely honest about LeBron James. And he said that Scottie Pippen is a top 5 player, superstar in the 90s, and you guys just don't want to listen. You continuously go against the grain, and you don't just go against the grain. You say some of the most asinine and ridiculous things that make yourself look crazy. All right, I will never forget that you tried to put Isaiah Thomas in your top 10 players of the 90s. That tells me right there that you've never really taken the time to study what each of these players have actually done. That just tells me right there. It tells me right there you're just going off of what you can remember, off what highlights you can remember that you saw on ESPN or WGN or whatever channel you were watching games on. It tells me right there you're not being a student at a game. All right, we do this over here. You're gonna you gotta come more correct than that. You can't come with personal jabs. You can't come with the clout chasing. You can't come with complaining about this, that, and the other, my subscribers. You can't say that I'm trying to steal content. No, just don't say stupid stuff, and you won't give me a reason to make a video on you. All right, that's what we do here. It's called F by F debates for a reason. I need somebody to come into the live chat and debate me on Scottie Pippen if you ready to take the task. If you can take that task on, come to FYF Sports Live. I'm really tired of everybody acting as if they can debate with us over there at FYF Sports. Again, I can send this debate to one of my youngins. I can send it off to CJ. I can send it off to True the King. I can send it off to one of these other guys and let them handle the light work and let them collect that easy money right off top of your dome. All right? Because I don't get anything for beating you in a debate. I don't get anything. The money just stay in my pocket. I love giving money out to my subscribers, to the loyal fans. So if you idiots in there who think that Scottie Pippen was not a great player in the 90s and you want to find every reason in the book to put him outside of your top 10. If you think that John Stockton wasn't a top 10 player in the 90s, wasn't a superstar in the 90s, if that Utah Jazz team wasn't great, then come in there and debate. All right. If you really think all of that, come in there and take the debate. We debate for money. You can come in there anytime. All right. Make sure you put in the comments, y'all. Ticket, house, Anna, body. You guys got ether. You guys are done. Put that in the comments. Get your 5 entries for we're giving away 2 PS5s. So tonight we're going to be drawing 2 names. All right. Just so you know, the same person can't win twice. So if you do win, all your names are coming out. All right. We only make sure one person can win. All right, but you know what, though? It's been a great video, man. I'm tired of this ether. This was a max ether. Again, we debunk people with facts. You saw the drawing board. You saw what Kobe said. You saw all the snippet videos. You saw all of the ranking list. You saw the analytics. What more do I got to say, man? It's FYF Sports, man. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell. We grinding to 20K. We grinding to 20K. We growing. We doing our thing over here. We putting in work on a daily basis. We ethering people who deserve to get ethered. We touch on all topics. All right. And then one thing again, you know what? One thing we definitely got to say this, man. Y'all can y'all please stop trying to control the content over here? That's one thing y'all ain't gonna do. Y'all can't control the content over here. And then the more you whine and cry, it's just gonna lead to more videos of you getting ethered. So the best thing you can do right now, anybody who got a problem with FYF Sports, is just shut your mouth and stay in your lane. That's all you gotta do. Shut your mouth and stay in your lane. Because again, it ain't no hate over here. We got love for everybody. We got love for LB. We got love for Ticket TV. All the guys in this Mahari Sports Podcast. We did an interview with Mahari. Brother, you guys need to check that interview out with Mahari. Probably one of the most intelligent brothers on this YouTube thing. All right. Again, it's all love over here. We just talk sports. We talk basketball. Again, if you guys try to take it outside of that, then that's a whole nother issue. Again, FYF, forget your feelings. If you get caught up in your feelings and you get caught up in that gossip and stuff, and you want to play those games, you can't do it over here. Forget your feelings. All right. That's what we mean. FYF debates. All right. But it's FYF debates, man. Been another great video. All right, and we out.